A difference or contrast between similar things or people. Similar words. Difference, contrast, dissimilarity, divergence, variance. Distinction. Distinction between schooling and education. Hello, friend, and thank you for joining me here today. Something odd is going on in public discourse. More and more commentators are ignoring important and, in some cases, rather obvious distinctions. As a result, they pursue lines of thought that defy common sense and cause confusion, injury to others, or both. One reason for this widespread failure to make important distinctions is that for almost a century, the emphasis on all levels of education has been on mind stuffing rather than training in effective thinking. The result of this misconceived focus is that many people leave school without having learned how to think effectively. Another reason is that we have been persuaded that truth is created rather than discovered. Those who embrace this idea believe their views cannot be wrong, so they see no need to make distinctions. So let's get into our first distinction here together. Schooling versus education. Learning is the cognitive process of acquiring new skills or knowledge. Education, knowledge acquired by formal learning and instruction. Schooling, the process of being formally educated in a school as opposed to self-study, online learning, private tutorship, and so on. What is schooling? Schooling is simply going to school, attending classes, and waiting to write and pass an exam. Simple. It is a training in memory capacity done via standardized testing. Sometimes the school attendance does not affect the life of the individual morally and or financially. And that is one of the biggest inadequacies in schooling. It is training in obedience and training in submission to authority. What is education? Education, on the other hand, is the development of character and mental power. While you might want to argue that this is what is done in school, I'd like to add that mental power is not developed in most schools, or the schooling system does not support the development of mental power. The idea of a school deciding your character has never worked, can never work, and this is why you have many PhD holders beating up their wives, many doctors are alcoholics, and so on. Learning is a lifelong process. However, education and schooling are temporary. We undoubtedly need education. But do we need schooling, especially in most schools as they currently are, within the schooling system that we currently have? Write down in the comments below, what do you think? What is your opinion on this topic? Currently, it would not be an exaggeration to say that most people survive and succeed in life not because of, but in spite of their schooling. Renowned educationists have all pointed out how the current school systems are not fit for purpose. The reason for this is because most teachers, principals, educational boards, and governing bodies aren't clear in their minds about what the purpose of education is and what the difference between education, learning, and schooling is. We can agree that with instant access we do have to information today, we don't need schools to get an education. In the words of Albert Einstein, education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. The purpose of education ought to be this: to create compassionate and creative students who will help develop and sustain a just society where all individuals are able to live happy, fulfilled lives, as free from pain and suffering as possible. The goal of education should also be to ensure we achieve species-wide transcendence and bring about civilization-level change, so that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past as we move forward into the 21st century and beyond. Education is lifelong, open-ended, all-encompassing, growth-oriented, self-directed. Schooling is time-bound, structured, and formal. Content and skill-oriented, occupation-directed, teacher-directed. I have never let my schooling interfere with my education, said Mark Twain. Most of us tend to have the perception that the two words carry the same meaning. The misunderstanding of the difference between both the terms has led to confusion in various aspects. The confusion has led to many people interfering schooling with education. Today's schools are pressure-packed places narrowly focused on producing results, specifically in reading and math, and on standardized tests. The emphasis on test scores, rank in class, grade point averages, or other numeric indicators has caused teachers to prepare students for these tests. Appropriate skill tests are helpful if they assist teachers to make sound instructional decisions for individual students. But one-time, high-stake test event can compromise time for creative and imaginative lessons and projects that promote reasoning, problem-solving, questioning, analyzing, synthesizing, and understanding. Schooling is teaching that competition is the only approach to reaching excellence, as if passion, commitment, and hard work over the long term do not matter. And we emphasize that human worth can be qualified by a set of numbers, discounting the intangibles of heart, of perseverance, and long-term commitment. The idea also seems to be that what is not metrically measurable is not important. The great philosophical questions of life, truth, beauty, justice, liberty, equality, and goodness, cannot be assessed through a computer-scored test. Well-educated people revere knowledge and apply values and principles to guide them as they seek a meaningful life of purpose. They try to make wise decisions premised on strong ethical and moral ideals and broad academic understanding. Education is a lifelong process of continuous learning and examination. Being well educated means having a sense of stewardship and concern for the common good, not simply tending to self-interests and ego needs. Being well schooled means you identify with a title and see it as a measure of worth or success. Blindly obey authority without questioning it. And it is process-oriented for the process sake instead of results-oriented for the growth sake. Schooling promotes starting to look for answers. Education promotes starting with questions. Schooling is about consumption. Education is about creating. Schooling, it's about finding information on something prescribed for you. Education is about exploring your passions and your interests. Schooling teaches compliance. Education is about challenging perceived norms. Schooling is scheduled at a certain time. Education can happen anytime, all of the time. Schooling often isolates. Education is often social. Schooling is standardized. Education is personal. Schooling teaches to obtain information from only certain people. Education promotes that everyone is a teacher and everyone is a learner. Schooling is about giving you information. Education is about making your own conclusions. Schooling is sequential. Education is random and nonlinear. And finally, schooling promotes surface level thinking. Education is about deep exploration. Education and schooling are quite different conceptual categories, and if people find it difficult to distinguish them, that really needs to be explained. It isn't obvious. For instance, people have the same problem distinguishing between the idea of justice and the idea of court. People usually seem aware that courts do not always dispense justice, even if justice is held up as an ideal. And they know that the whole judicial system can sometimes be unjust, in tyrannies, for example. More than that, they know that the domain of justice extends far beyond whatever could be dealt with by a judicial system. That issues of justice arise on a personal life and in politics, and indeed in every aspect of our lives together. Education and schooling stand in the same relation. For some reason, we call things educational much more indiscriminately than we call things just. And we do so as if there's very little at stake as compared with justice. Because we have such weak sensitivity to education, to what could go wrong, we don't worry about indoctrination the way we worry about injustice. We often talk about schooling not being educational, but it usually remains just talk. When the talk finally reaches the point of action, it tends to reduce to talk about the fact that students aren't learning the existing curriculum very well, and that too many are falling behind. It isn't, in other words, an effective discussion about education at all. Why do you go to school? To get good grades, to get good jobs, to make your parents proud. Now, do me a favor, and in the comments below, write why you believe you should go to school. There's so much wrong with the school systems nowadays. There's been very little change in classrooms, teaching styles, and in schools over the past century. Yet, there's been an extensive change within society and the whole world. The same schooling that led a student to success in 1900s will not necessarily work now with our extensive technology advancements and completely different outlook on the world. Grades, tests, quizzes, report cards, college GPA, those are the focuses of a typical high school student. The emphasis in school has been taken off learning and mastering content to getting the best grades possible. Students are pit against each other for competition in best grades and best GPA. In order to win this competition, students often do whatever they think it will take. Schools are full of half-asleep zombie students who don't always make the most out of the opportunity given to them. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. Education comes from more than just schooling, and you can be educated in more things than just being smart. Malcolm X dropped out of school and did most of his significant learning while in prison. David Beckham is educated in soccer. Picasso is educated in created art. Shakespeare is educated in the art of all things written. These educated men may not have gone through schooling in the way that we know in order to become superiorly educated on these topics. They went into the real world and they learned, experienced, and chased their own dreams. And in today's society, too much time is spent focusing over grades and standardized test scores that countless opportunities are missed in everyday life. I personally can say that I have learned the most from experiences and opportunities I had outside of school. Actually, most of my education comes after I've left the schooling institutions. Most of the knowledge I use in everyday life comes from the education that came from my lifelong learning, and very little, minimal, comes from knowledge gained in school. Actually, I had to unlearn a lot of the things that were sold to me in the schooling system that were completely useless and were actually nothing more than a try to make me into a blindly obedient servant. No critical thinking, no emotional intelligence, no creativity, no understanding of why things are the way they are. They did teach me what the correct answer is, though, and my memory is amazing. We cannot blame all of the issues on the schooling system itself. Society's expectations and students' mindset have a great deal to do with it as well. Education doesn't start when you go to kindergarten and stop when you graduate. The world is full of learning opportunities. They just need to be recognized. Schooling ends. Sometimes even education does. However, lifelong learning never truly ends. Simply, schooling is the learning you do at school, the way you are taught the Pythagorean theorem and how to solve for x. Education is not spewing facts and doing anything to pass an exam like school teaches you. Education is about inspiring the mind, not just filling the head. And there you have it. Distinction. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. Share this video with people you know can benefit from this distinction. Leave a comment and let me know what your favorite ways of educating yourself are. And if you feel you are ready to improve your self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management even further, do check out my Master of Life Awareness program, Human Need Psychology, plus Emotional Intelligence, plus Universal Laws of Nature. You can only experience what you are aware of. So, become a Master of Life Awareness. The link is in the description below. Thank you. Love and respect.